Hello, my name's James. I'm a portrait photographer from Portsmouth in the UK. You have probably not heard of me, and I welcome you to this, a live stream, live chat, Q&A enabled. You can get involved in the comments in our live chat section. Let us know. Begin by letting us know where in the world you are joining us for this most special of special guests. Hailing originally from Queensland, Australia, but currently residing in the posh part of London, she has been a pioneer for newborn photography since 2004. The excellence of education across the world. Kelly boasts over 700 online tutorials, resources, mentorship programs, and of course, a plethora of Photoshop actions, as every good photography educator should. But most importantly, she is a business educator helping other photographers achieve their goals. She is one of only 15 Australian Canon Masters of Photography. Why won't they pick me? And a multi-award-winning photographer, including achieving the most prestigious of accolades, the Icon Grand Master. And on top of all that, the cherry on the cake, the coup de grace, she is unquestionably Rankin's most glamorous model. Welcome to the stage, Kelly Brown.
I don't think I've ever been introduced like that before.
Well, there you go. It's first time for everything. This is unique. What was it like being photographed by Rankin? Tell us about that. He's one of my favorite photographers.
Wow, that was intense, exciting, and my face was hurting by the end of it because I laughed and I smiled so much. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was definitely an experience to remember, that's for sure.
Wonderful stuff. Now, you host an online platform. We're going to see clips of it here now. KBO Online.
All right.
Much like, oh, hello. I've not muted you either. There you go. Much like HBO Online, much like HBO, this is KBO Online. This is where people can find you for these world-class education tutorials. Talk to us a little bit about what people can expect from KBO.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much to kind of put it into a nutshell. But ultimately, it began after COVID because, we were all sort of in lockdown, and I just thought I had all these tutorials. Why not put them all in one place and create more of an online community with photographers from all over the world? So whilst a lot of people seem to think that it's very baby focused and there's a lot of baby imagery there, there's a lot of different types of tutorials on there, from what you just saw there before in terms of exposure and getting it right in camera, right through to fine art portraits, maternity, family, you name it, and a lot of business. So yeah, it's good.
That's what we like to hear. We like to hear a lot about the business and a lot about the nuts and bolts, because we're all passionate photographers, we're all creatives, but ultimately driving a thriving business is a skill in itself. That's why I press the shutter, and my wife in our business deals with all of the important stuff around the back of that. And I love the fact that that's a real feature of your online training when you actually look through the courses, the business side of things. And I remember one of the first seminars I was in attendance for you for was you asked the room right at the top. I think everyone thought they were coming to learn how to pose newborns in the froggy pose, right? And then right at the top of the class, you said, who here enjoys paying tax? And like no one put their hand up. And you said, I love it. I love paying tax because the more tax I pay means the more successful a year I've had. And I think that's great. The fact that this whole seminar was geared towards how to drive a successful business, not necessarily the ins and outs of posing, which is very, very important and well, and something that you deliver. But I love the fact that you drive that business message home.
Yeah, and because, when we think about it, we're all creatives. We pick up a camera, we fall in love with taking photos, and then before we know it, people are asking us to take photos for them and asking us how much we cost, and we're like, oh, I don't know. So at some point along the line, you're trying to learn the tricks of the game in terms of photography, and then you've got to learn how to wear a business hat as well and sell what it is that you create. So I think for a lot of people, especially creatives, we struggle with that confidence in our work artistically, but we can struggle even more within our confidence of running a successful business and being paid for what it is that we do.
Yeah, that's true. I want to take you back in time for an interesting video. I always try to find the image that I first saw of a photographer that I choose to interview. But I went back through your Instagram file, and the other thing I love about your portfolio of work, right, is that it's quite easy to pigeonhole you as quote unquote newborn photographer. But so many of your successful and powerful images aren't newborns at all. And I found this of Madeline Stewart online on your Instagram feed. Talk to us about this makeover session, this takeover session with Madeline.
Oh, she is such a beautiful person, human being. And I was actually privileged to photograph Madeline multiple times. And I actually met her because there was an English photographer that came to Australia and was using my studio to photograph Madeline. And so I assisted. I was there just to kind of like help out in terms of setting up backdrops because the photographer was on her own. And Madeline kind of took a bit of a shining to me, and I was just literally holding a reflector, and, you know, we'd have little hugs and things like that. And then the mum approached me and sort of said, you know, Madeline gets asked to do a lot of promo shoots and she gets interviewed a lot for different magazines and online publications and things like that. Would I be interested in photographing her? So I think it was like 5 or 6 times I actually had her in my studio. And every experience was slightly different, and she just wants to have fun, and she's so you know, so aware of everything that's going on around her, and it's all just about having fun for her. That's all it was. And her and I, you know, would collaborate on different ideas, and she'd come in and I'd say, you know, what do you want to do today? And sometimes there would be, you know, journalists that would be interviewing, you know, at the same time and taking behind the scenes photos and things like that. But ultimately we just had fun, and it was like just playing dress up, you know. So I guess we hit it off right from the get-go, and then we created this beautiful sort of relationship. But it was always for me, I don't know, very moving experience, because, you know, she's very aware of what's going on around her, but also just, you know, so lovable. And at times we'd have to take our time because Madeline's had heart surgeries and things like that. So she'd get a little bit tired, and we'd sort of take a break, and then we'd get going again, and we'd, you know, put some music on and dance and have some fun. So every session was different, but always an amazing experience.
Yeah, incredible. And the fact that she sees it as fun and takes the pressure off, and it takes the pressure off you, and means that you can enjoy it as well, which means that you're likely to create a better environment, which then creates better pictures. But yeah, I love that. It's a little bit of a throwback, that one, isn't it? A few years ago now.
Totally, absolutely. And thank you for reminding me of that, because I'd forgotten about that video.
There you go. Right, if you're joining us anywhere in the world, leave a comment in the live chat so I can check the live chat's working. Answer me this, riddle me this. Where are you watching us from? Where are you watching? Where are you tuning in from to watch Kelly Brown talk about her 3 favorite images? This is this series where we ask professional photographers to bring 3 of their favorite images, the 3 images that define them as a photographer. 1 from the world of photography, 1 from their professional portfolio, and 1 from their personal portfolio. And we look into the stories behind them. We've got some super images that Kelly's provided for us tonight, and we're going to start off. We're going to go back in time, build the DeLorean. Here we go. This is one that Kelly has provided for us here. Talk to us about this one, Kelly.
Okay, so I have no idea who took the photo. As I can't tell you the photographer, but I can tell you that growing up, I used to look through this old tin, like a biscuit tin of my dad's, that was full of photos of his. And I would ask him about this photo, and he never really knew the exact date or when it was taken. But the gentleman sitting on the ground on the right-hand side with the big hair, that's my grandfather. So I would hear stories about, you know, my dad would tell me about my grandfather, but my dad actually didn't even know him. He passed away before my dad was born. He was in World War II, and so my dad never knew his dad. So this was one of very few photos that he had of him, and we couldn't find the date. So I went on this massive journey, you know, down a rabbit hole, so to speak, to find out when this photo was taken and what it was for. Anyway, interestingly enough, the story gets even better. I'm not going to bore.
Go. I'm all in.
Okay, so this photo was taken. My dad thought it was from the 30s. It was actually taken on the 19th of September, 1929.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a Widnes Rugby League football team who were playing the Australian touring team. So this is before my dad was born in 1929. I'm Australian. And they played the Australian touring side. I didn't send you the other photos, but during my search, I managed to find the newspaper articles about this game in 1929. And I even found in a library in Widnes the program, and someone had handwritten, there was like pencil scribblings on
Mm-hmm.
this beautiful old program from the game, and my grandfather scored a try against the Australian side. So it was all very exciting for me to be able to find this. Anyway, my dad came to Australia in 1973 as an exchange rugby league player, professional player. So he followed in his father's footsteps, playing rugby league, went to Australia, which was only meant to be for 12 months and has now been there for 50 years. He met my mum working in, he went over to play for the Western Suburbs Leagues Club, and he got a
Mm-hmm.
job, part-time job, working at the Western Suburbs Leagues Club, where he met my mum. And my grandfather was on the board of that club. My grandfather was born on the 19th of September, 2 years after this photo was taken.
What?
Yeah, so it was like, I'm just one of these people that, everything happens for a reason. There's always so much going on in the world, and everything's meant to happen and leads you somewhere. So this photo just always blew my mind because it was taken on the 19th of September, 1929, way before my dad was even born. And then my grandfather was born on the 19th of September in 1931, 2 years later. So anyway, I contacted the Widnes Rugby League Club maybe 12, 13 years ago. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, I have a copy of this photo. And they were like, are you kidding? This is incredible. We're celebrating 100 years of rugby league. So I sent them everything I had found. And then this has got something to do with the next photo as well, but I
Okay.
did like a bit of a world tour with my family, doing workshops in 8 countries in 8 weeks. And one of them was in Manchester, and which is near Widnes in the UK. So I contacted the Widnes Rugby League Club, and I'm like, I'm going to be in town. I'd love to come and see your display for the 100 years. And we got this massive tour. We got to go into the dressing sheds with all the the premier players and everything. It was all very, very exciting. They gave us just the most incredible experience and day at the Widnes Vikings Rugby League Club, all because I sent them this photo. And we got to meet the coach and all the players and first grade players. It was amazing. So this one photo I grew up with my entire childhood led me there. But it gets even better, right?
Okay.
So
Go on.
this is my dad's dad. My mum's dad, who was born on the 19th of September, 1931, he is the reason I'm a photographer. He
Okay.
always had a camera in his hand, and he was always photographing his family. So for me, it was always, photographs told amazing stories, and he was a storyteller. My dad was a storyteller. Everyone had these amazing stories and photographs to go with them. So that's what led me into photography. Now, since meeting my dad's family, 2 of his sisters had cameras that belonged to his dad, these beautiful old antique cameras, and no one knew that he had this love of photography as well. So I now own both of these cameras. One I probably shouldn't say because you never know who's listening, but one apparently he stole from a plane crash after the war from German plane.
Okay.
It landed. He stole it from one of these sites. I have it in my living room. But yeah, it's just when we talk about photographs and the impact that they can have on our lives, this one photograph, I truly believe, is what led me, down a path of telling stories. And yeah, it means a lot to me, and yeah, my family. It's amazing.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? This is the well, no, it's a hell of a story. First of all, it's incredible. It reminds me of something my nan told me when she was quite close to the end, that she sort of said, "Oh, I always thought everything in life was random," you know, and then she just opened up and said, "I've just realized that everything in life had a purpose and a meaning towards my end story. You know, everything that happened to me was meant to happen to me." She just had this massive moment of enlightenment close to the end. And so when you tell stories like this, you know, that it kind of joins the dots, doesn't it? You know, in a way, I think, and it hammers home the message that you don't understand the value of a photograph until it's all you have left, and that this photograph cannot devalue over time. It's impossible for it to. And the fact that it then succeeds generations beyond is, you know, I think fascinating, because, you know, this is the first generation, isn't it, really, of people being documented by photographs, realistically. So if photography had existed 300 years ago, maybe we would have 300 years worth of lineage documented by photographs, but we've got no proof that that is going to be the case. But I think it will be, and I think these things will last and survive. And what always fascinates me about, and while I'm struggling for words here, I must apologize to the chat. For some reason, YouTube has disabled the chat tonight. I don't know why, and I need to look into it some other time. So apologies, you can't get your comments in. It's not that you're unpopular, Kelly. We've got loads of viewers. What I love about these sorts of squad photos from back in the day is that they had real forethought into positioning, posing, placement, dress, and everyone looking the same way at the same time. Because realistically, you have one, maybe two shots if you're a big money photographer and you could afford two plates.
Absolutely.
You know? So the care that has to go in to shooting these sorts of images is overwhelming. I just love it. It's such a snapshot of the age. Look at the different faces and the styles, and it's just great.
Oh, it's
so
brilliant.
Good.
The
so
other
good.
photo that I managed to find whilst digging through and you know, digging up the history of this image, I found on eBay, and I bought it, a postcard of the Australian Rugby League team, and it had all their names along the bottom of it. And so because I'd found the newspaper clipping and I had the program, I was able to cross match and make sure it was the right team. So for my dad, for his, I think it was his 60th birthday, I printed all of these, as well as the program and the newspaper articles and the Australian team and this team, and had it all framed in this beautiful big frame, and it sits in his pool room.
Amazing.
So for him, you know, being a rugby league player and that being his life, you know, my dad had an incredible career as a rugby league player in Australia, and went on to be one of only 3 level 3 rugby union and rugby league coaches in Australia. And you know, he's done some amazing things there. But this is his roots, and now he gets to look at it every day in his bar. So yeah, it's the power of photographs. And as you said, sadly, we don't realize the importance of them until the people that are in them are gone, or you know, we've never met them in this instance. So,
but it's just great. I love it. Thank you. So, I mean, that's just a great, what an amazing story. It's just like, you know, we could end there.
You asked for a photo, and I'm like, of all the photos in all the world and all the photographers, what am I going to pick? And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and throw you a curveball.
It's quite romantic that we don't know the author. I quite enjoy that.
Yeah,
that's quite nice. Before we go on to your next image, just a reminder to everyone in the chat, and we'll try and get the chat going next week, because next week we've got Jess McGovern joining us next Thursday, same time, 7 o'clock. She's going to be talking about all things canine, probably. I don't know. She's going to bring 3 images exactly the same as Kelly has bought tonight, but that will be in the chat next week. Your second image is from your personal portfolio, your personal plethora of images, not professional portfolio. This is one of your personal ones. And we're going to take you, Vive la France. We're going to take you over to the Louvre. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so these are my 3 kids. My oldest is the one in the striped pants, and that's my son and his twin sister there as well. So this is 12 years ago, and I sort of briefly mentioned before I got to do a bit of a 8 countries in 8 weeks teaching around the world, and that was my first really big experience traveling the world. And I didn't own a passport until I got married. I'd never traveled. I lie. I was 18 months when I came to England, but I don't remember it, obviously. So I was on my mum's passport, but I hadn't traveled. And so, growing up and dreaming of all the different places that I could go to, and I'm a big lover of art. I love, everything that's in the Louvre, obviously. But this was, if someone had asked me when I was younger, one place that I wanted to go, where would it be? It would be right there. And the fact that I got to stand there and photograph my 3 kids in front of that building is everything. Like, just they're so happy, and we had the most incredible experience inside the Louvre. I said to them, we get little pieces of paper when we walked inside, list of some of the most amazing paintings and pieces of art that were in there and where to go to find them. So I handed one each to my kids, and I said, now I want you to find the Mona Lisa. And my son kept pointing to all these women in paintings with dark hair that somewhat resembled her. And he's like, I found her. But it was clearly, he was looking for the woman, not the painting. So it was quite an interesting experience. But, I wouldn't, like, growing up in a small country town, like literally small country town in rural New South Wales, it was a dream to go to Europe, to go to any of these countries. So to actually be there with my 3 kids and to be there doing what I loved. It was my work, it was my photography, and the fact that I got into teaching that got me there. And it wasn't anyone else, it was me. So when I left that small country town, I left there with a backpack and $14 in my bank account. So everything that I got to do was through blood, sweat and tears, literally. And I got there, and those 3 beautiful smiles are what make it all worth it.
How much, I'll come back to this image. How much does that motivate you today? That memory of leaving your town with $14?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
When you know what it's like to, be at ground zero, when you know what it's like to hit rock bottom, to come from nothing and build something from scratch, I don't think we give ourselves enough credit, and I don't think we often stop and look back at what we've achieved to see, how amazing it is, and to be grateful every day for that. So, like, we all have good days, we all have bad days, but I think if you just take a moment and you look at how far you've come and be grateful for every step of the way, it makes everything so worth it.
There's a song I share with my son. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's just like it just reminds me. It's reminiscent of that. I'm just thinking about like what you 20 years ago would think of you now and would give to be in the position that you are now. In terms of like the aspirations that you had when you first came into the industry. Because I remember when I first came in, everything seemed so unachievable and so far away.
Oh, absolutely. And I had so many people say to me along the way, like when I first picked up a camera, it was just after I had my first baby, and she's she'll be 22 next week. And I was told at the time, perhaps I should go and learn photography because my photos weren't in focus and were very good. So my baby was 6 weeks old when I enrolled in my first course at night, and I did a photography class at night. And then I loved it so much, I went and did another class, and I was, working with film and trying to learn as much as I possibly could with this baby that never slept. And I had a job. My boss was continually asking me to come back to work, and I just didn't want to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can make this work. And I did. So I sent him a message and I said, I'm not coming back. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. So yeah, photography at the time was a challenge. I went and worked for another photographer, and I was doing weddings, I was doing architectural, commercial photography. I was doing anything and everything you could possibly imagine, but I had studied photography. So I had, I suppose, the confidence. A lot of people pick up a camera and learn by doing. I had to go and learn from a textbook because that's the type of person that I am. And so I had the confidence behind me that I knew the skills, I knew what I was doing. I just didn't have the experience. And when I started, working for another wedding photographer, I remember saying to him, my passion sort of, I think, with baby photography. And he's like, don't be silly. That's just a fad. Like, it won't last. And then I remember joining the Australian Institute of Professional Photography, and it wasn't long after I joined that, a few people used to throw around the term mum with a camera. And yeah, well, I've been called worse, but it took a lot. And then I got so exhausted from shooting weddings every weekend and having 3 children under 3 and a husband that worked away, fly in, fly out, and he was only home every second weekend. I was just exhausted. And I said to him, I think I'm done with weddings. And he said, there's no money in baby photography. Okay. So I proved him wrong.
Well, not only that, I mean, there's a lot of, and I say this as a middle-aged white man in the industry, right? But there are a lot of barriers, invisible barriers to entry, and there have been historically, by like just you even mentioning the downplaying of newborn photography as a potential market, when actually some people just couldn't see that it was a booming market.
Oh,
they just
absolutely.
couldn't see a way in which that they would flourish in it, because it was too feminine for them. Yeah, and I think those things are put in place to hold certain people down in order to keep certain people where they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it for me at the time, it was a business decision, because I had three small children, and I was really struggling to find the hours to actually work because they required a lot of my attention. I had them going to kind of kindy, daycare, things like that, a couple of days a week. And then it was only every second weekend that my husband would be home at this point in time, that he'd walk in the door and I'd be like, you take the kids, I've got work to do. And he'd be exhausted from having done 11 days straight. So it was always this juggle. And when I say that it was a business decision, it literally was, because what I found was people who have babies, they take time off work. You've got a mum on maternity leave and you've got a dad who's usually had a couple of days off. So I could all of a sudden shoot Monday to Friday during school hours when my kids were in, kindy or daycare or whatever it was. And I didn't have to schedule family portrait sessions on a weekend around school hours. I didn't have to do weddings anymore. And so I saw this opening and I went with it. But it obviously came with its challenges. Baby photography back then wasn't a huge thing, especially in Australia. And trying to create a niche for myself, was hard, especially when you're copying things online, as well. Like, I remember putting a picture up of a baby in a bowl, and 10 minutes later, this one particular photographer that I had really admired, and I'd followed him, we were friends on Facebook. And so babies weren't commonly shared. Anyway, I put this picture up, and then he writes on his Facebook page, if I see another baby in a fruit bowl, I'm going to vomit. And it just hit me. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, tell me how you really feel. But you know what? It just gave me so much determination to do it, and to do it well, because I knew that there was a massive, part of the market that was available to me, because there weren't a lot of people doing it. And I did it easily. I don't want to make baby photography sound easy, but it just came naturally to me. And I had babies of my own. I was 15 when my older sister had her first baby. So I've been surrounded by babies, and it was just easy. So it was a good business decision, and it was one of the best decisions that I made in my career.
Yeah, complete crossroads, right? Complete fork in the road, and to somewhere where you had faith to sort of like then achieve all of these dreams of traveling the world and taking family to travel the world and see, the Mona Lisa, which if you actually go and see the Mona Lisa is about this big in the Louvre. I'm surprised you could find it at all. I was so blown away by these when I went to the Louvre. I was so blown away by these paintings that are like floor to ceiling, decades of work, and just beautiful detail, and like these amazing scenes. And then the crowd's just crowded around this postage stamp of a woman looking slightly enigmatic.
Yeah.
Behind glass. But great expressions. And you're not the first person to share their favorite personal photograph that's been a snapshot on the phone, which isn't as what we would call anywhere near perfect in terms of technicalities, but evokes a strong feeling and emotion within you, which says something really, is something that we should identify in our clients as well, in terms of what is important to them. The fact that they look so natural and the smiles are so believable and authentic in this shot is overpowering the shape of the Louvre in the background, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just, 8 countries in 8 weeks with these 3 little people, and the steps that we did each day, and they're still smiling.
At this point, I would ask the chat to name the other 7 countries, but I can't because, again, chat's disabled tonight. I can only apologise. I don't know why. I'm guessing one of them was Belgium.
No.
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 I thought you might have just done all the little.
We actually started in the US at WPPI and went from Vegas to New York to Manchester, and then there was Rome, France. We did Dubai, did Singapore, did Amsterdam.
See, this is my limiting. This is what I do with myself. I think, if I was going to do a tour of 8 countries, I'd make it convenient. Just do Holland. I'd do Belgium. Just nip into France, get back over to the UK, count Wales and Scotland as well. Not Kelly Brown. No, we're going to USA. We're going to Singapore, Dubai, Disneyland, Narnia.
We lived in Australia. Do you know anywhere close to Australia?
Right, yeah, no, that's a good point. New Zealand. The week after Jess McGovern is joining us, we're being joined by Jen Stitt, a wedding photographer from out in the States. She does reportage weddings, completely different style of photography, and she'll be sharing her 3 favorite images with us in 2 Thursdays' time. But your final image, which we're going to bring up for you now, Kelly, this is your favorite image, and this is from your professional portfolio. And I sat on a panel and judged this once. And so I'm very interested to get your insight into it, to see if I was anywhere near in what I tried to read into it. But it's a really powerful image, and we're going to speak to it and link it into why we're meeting tonight and the whole reason why we sort of decided to meet together. Talk to us about this shot.
Yeah, this is my mum, and it's such a special image. It does obviously stir a lot of emotions, not just in me, but in most people that look at it. And it's very graphic. It's probably one of the hardest images that I've ever created. This is going back now, a number of years, but the photo that she's holding in her hand. So I took this. She actually I'd not long moved into, my house, and she was sitting on the steps, and I got this new lens. So I said to her, sit there. The light was coming through the front door, and I was just practicing with this lens. Anyway, she wasn't feeling 100%. This was before she was actually diagnosed with leukemia. So it wasn't until, this was I think on the Saturday or the Sunday, but it was the Tuesday after that she ended up going to the doctors and then being told to go to the hospital. So that photo on the right-hand side there, we didn't know that she had leukemia. It was taken a few days beforehand. So that photo had kind of gone, into the the storage banks and never to be sort of looked at again. And it wasn't until she was going through a lot of her treatment and having had, sort of many rounds of chemotherapy that I came across that image on a hard drive, and I was like, I'm going to do something with that. And we had also this was sort of she spent 6 months in hospital. So it was sort of 6 months in, and there was no match on the bone marrow registry for her, which was quite sort of hard to kind of come to terms with, because that was what was going to be life-saving for her. And and Mum was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is the type of leukemia that children get. So quite rare for a woman, in her late 50s to be diagnosed with that type of cancer. Anyway, Mum's always been, my biggest fan when it comes to anything I do, and her other two children. Like, she is our number one supporter, and she'll do anything from, sit with us in a judging room to, be in front of the camera. So we decided to create this together. And I created a blog post and I shared it with this image, and it was to bring more awareness around becoming a bone marrow donor. So when Mum first was diagnosed, we had no idea how to become a bone marrow donor. Like, we didn't know anything about it. We thought that you actually had to go and donate bone marrow. So that's why you don't do it, right? And so we learn a lot about the process and realize that it's just a swab of the mouth, all of those sort of things. And science does the rest, basically. This particular blog post of mine had over 300 shares. And a couple of months later, there was a match. It was only an 8 out of 10 match, but the donor came from the UK. And it was really quite amazing. I like to think that because I was able to share something, that it helped find a donor. And Mum had her bone marrow transplant. They flew the bone marrow over to Australia within 72 hours of it being taken out of the match, the donor. It was then obviously transfused into my mum. So, she's living now. She obviously has a lot of problems and ongoing problems from that. But this image, we'll get to the awards part of it, because you said that you judged it. This image sits in the oncology ward at the hospital where she had her bone marrow transplant. And so she goes there still now, many, many years later, every month, and it's hanging in the doctor's waiting rooms, and everyone gets to see it. So it tells a story, there's a lot to it, and it can be confronting, but at the same time, for me and for my mum, we've talked about this. When you're going through a really hard time, creating a photo like this can help you process a lot. And the handwriting in the back, that's her handwriting. I got her to write down on a piece of paper every single word, or how she, everything that she's felt and experienced throughout the entire journey. So that's overlaid in Photoshop onto the background. So that's her handwriting. There's a lot that sort of, there's a lot of different layers to it. So it was healing and therapeutic for her, but it was also very healing and therapeutic for me to be able to create this and come to terms with, how big something like this can impact not just the person that's experiencing it, but their family as well. And not long after this, I also shaved my head for the Leukemia Foundation and raised quite a substantial amount of money for the Leukemia Foundation in Australia. And we did a lot of work for people going through leukemia. And so I love sharing this photo, whilst it's hard for people to look at sometimes because of their own past experiences and things like that. For me, I look at it with gratitude that obviously my mum's still here, and for the number of people that it's reached and for what it's been able to do. So from a personal level, that's kind of where it sits with me. But from a photography point of view, being able to create something like this pushed me and my technical skills. I entered this image into the Australian Professional Photography Awards. It scored a 98. And that was pretty special because my mum was there with me in the audience watching it get judged. So she was able to celebrate that with me, because a 98 out of 100, as you know, is a pretty phenomenal score.
You're right.
It wasn't until I think the February following that in 2013, I believe, it went to WPPI and it scored a perfect 100. So all five judges on the judging panel gave it a score of 100. And then in 2014, it won the gold medal of the World Photographic Cup for the portrait division. So it's won a lot of awards, but I don't want to diminish what they have done for me as a photographer, but on a personal level, just the number of people that this image has reached and what it's done for people with leukemia means more to me than, you know, the glass or the medals.
Unquestionably. Thank you so much for being so honest and sharing the story behind this image. It's very emotive. You said earlier on that your mum was your biggest cheerleader, okay? Especially with her being in the audience of these judging things. Do you feel that this is a way that you found this a cathartic process to be a cheerleader for your mum?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It really comes across. And did your bond during this process of image creation, did it change, and in what way did it change during that process?
Our relationship has always been very strong. I was her baby. And my brother and sister are a bit older than I am, and so when they'd sort of, you know, grown up and moved on, it was mum and I for a long time. So we'd had our, you know, our ups and downs with different challenges throughout life. So we've gone through a lot together. Not to say that my older brother and sister haven't gone through a lot with her as well, but you know, my personal relationship with my mum, a lot has obviously happened with that. But yeah, when I say she's my biggest cheerleader, you know, it's not just being in front of the camera or sitting with me in a judging room. Like, I ran a conference called the Baby Summit, and you know, she used to have a little booth in the trade show where she knitted and sewed baby outfits and sold them to everyone. You know, she got so involved and was always just such a big part of everything. So yeah, but our relationship through making this, not many. How do I say this without coming across the wrong way? I often call my mum Susan.
Okay.
So, Susan, come on. We've always been very upfront, very honest with each other. So, you know, like, you know, sit still, like, you know, stop moving, things like that. But also, when I've got a camera in front of my face and she's sitting there in front of me, we're talking. We're just talking about anything and everything. And it's never staged. It's never, you know, yeah, it's just real and it's raw and it is what it is. And this photo is just the perfect example of our relationship, me being able to capture her on, you know, such a raw level and express herself, for me to be able to do that. So yeah, I think as photographers, that's probably our biggest challenge when someone sits down in front of us. You know, how do we capture their true, authentic self? You know, how do we bring out the soul that's in there? And I suppose just being able to connect with the person that's in front of the camera. But when it's your mum, it's very different to someone that you've never met before. But so yeah, that's, I think, why it's so special, is that I was able to do that.
I think there's, I admire the fact that you can have that close relationship, because I find it difficult with family members, even just talking about what I do for a living, let alone sort of sitting them down. I've refused on so many occasions to take photographs at various family functions just because I don't find it comfortable. So that is, I've so much admiration for you for being able to do that. The thing that I love, I love so much about this photograph. I don't want to talk about it for too much longer, but the thing that really attracted me to it, the one element, is that tiny little plaster mark on the right hand side as we look at it on that arm, because I recognized it. I recognized it as like it's something when you're going through that treatment, you get used to these little marks that just appear, and the temptation is to make everything perfect when we're trying to present these images for awards, right? We're going through every little finite detail, but to keep that in, I just felt lent a real level of authenticity to the final product and the final image. And I'm so glad that it's helped so many people, learn about leukemia and learn about bone marrow and all that kind of stuff to help other people through what is a really, really difficult time.
Yeah, and you know what? It doesn't have to be depressing. Do you know what I mean? But photography is an amazing craft, and it gives us all an incredible way to express ourselves and to share, our unique gifts, our talents. And as you said before, it can be quite cathartic creating an image like this. And I think too that photography gives us that gift to be able to create and heal at the same time and process information. So because we do have that ability to capture, somebody's soul essentially in frame. And those, I've got so many beautiful photos of my mum, don't get me wrong, like I don't just have those, but I have amazing, very beautiful photos of her as well. So but the photos that tell a story and the photos that create impact, and those are the ones that stay in people's minds. Those are the ones that are unforgettable.
And only by challenging yourself creatively, by putting yourself in the water that's too deep for you to stand in, do you push yourself creatively, professionally, artistically, technically, as you alluded to create something different. That's where the magic happens, is in that little bit of water where it just feels a little bit unsafe, to badly quote David Bowie from my perspective. And I like to say, I really, really thank you. Thank you so much for sharing it. This is my friend James, who this feed is for tonight. He sadly lost his battle with leukemia last year. So this weekend, my wife and I, in his memory, are running the Great South Run. There is a link in the description below. If you would like to donate anything, you can do. Just hit that link, and that money will go straight to Leukemia Care to offer help and support for people who have been diagnosed with leukemia onto the next steps and how to see their way through the journey, and to provide them with information. If you want as well, you can visit my store, portraitofaWrestler.com/store, and you can make your donation there by buying anything from my store, and I'll send you a print. You talk about mums being supportive. I started that sale 2 weeks ago. The first order that came through was for £45 for one of my fine art prints of a semi-naked male wrestler, and it went to my mum. She's got that up. She's got that up in her home now.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
I said to Fliss, I said, "Oh, it's gone well. 2 minutes into the sale, and we've made a sale." And then I'm like, "Oh, it's my mum."
That is gold, absolute gold. But what a lot of other people don't realize, when it comes to anyone with a blood cancer, donating blood as well. Platelets, blood transfusions are, part of their daily routine in hospital when they're going through treatment. So any blood that you can donate as well would be very, very helpful.
Absolutely, unquestionably. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I'm so sorry we haven't been able to put questions to Kelly. There are look, I'll tell you what, we'll probably do it again, right? We'll do this. Last time we did this was 5 years ago, so we'll do it again in 5 years, and I'll make sure the chat's working properly then.
Love it.
It wasn't a no, but it wasn't a yes either. You will have noticed. So, Kelly, where can people, as we wind this up, I know that you're going to be in London, Hammersmith this January, chairing a panel of judges for the 2016 Societies competition. It opened today. Entries open today. I might even enter this year. I've got one good image I think I've taken in the last 2 years. Kelly, why should people enter the 2016 competition with the Societies this January?
Um, well, before I get to that, I'm just going to say, like, even if you don't enter, coming along to the judging, it's the best classroom that you can be in. Literally, you get to listen to judges like James. You get to listen to me chair, but the rooms are filled with judges who have been trained, and they provide feedback and information about every single print that comes through. And you will not find a better classroom if you're wanting to learn and push yourself and grow. But yeah, everything that we just talked about before, when you take a photo and you're trying to, bring a concept, an idea to life, and then you finally capture it, you print it, you put it on paper, and you put it in front of a panel of judges, the most nerve-wracking thing you will ever do, but the most rewarding as well. And you learn more than anything by putting yourself out there. And you know what? Just have a go. The judges don't know whose images it is, so you can submit without telling anyone. If you've never done it before, it's all anonymous, and you get great feedback. But you get to put your work out there in front of other people. Who knows? Who might see it?
You might see it. And a couple of things on that. We as judges are always trying to attribute the highest score we possibly can to an image. We're trying to do that. We're not trying to knock anything down. We're not trying to belittle anyone. We're not trying to be overly critical for the sake of it. We're trying to try and give the correct score for the image, and that's trying to give it as high a score as we possibly can. When we get to that level, our job is to provide education on how you then get to the next level. That's our job. Not just to point out the things that held it back, but to point out how we can improve those things and how you can take those things to the next level. And Kelly and I both know that only by putting yourself up for critique, only by putting an image in front of someone who's been around the industry for years and asking them, where have I gone wrong and how can I get better? Can you get honest feedback? And that will improve your photography, improve your journey, and improve your client experience overall.
Absolutely. And what's really wonderful to see every year, which is why I keep entering and I keep, being a part of the process, is that the benchmark, the level of work that gets entered every year just continues to raise that benchmark year after year. And it's really incredible to watch it. And the thing is, once you get on that merry-go-round of entering and you continue to see that benchmark get raised every year, it pushes you to expand, your work, to explore different techniques and ideas and concepts and get better. I'm still learning. After 22 years, I'm still learning.
And only by surrounding yourself. This isn't like a pre-written plug. So I'm just thinking of things.
We both love it.
I'm thinking of toppers though, because I just realized it's been noted to me in the past that in order to be more successful, you need to surround yourself with successful people, or at least like-minded people. And when you're around negative energies, that inevitably feeds into you. The people that come to a convention, like the societies, the people that sit in judging rooms, are like-minded individuals. They are the sort of people that you want to be building your community around, to lift you up and to give you positive reinforcement and honest advice as well. Let's face it, because we all need honest advice. And those are the sort of people that you want to meet. You don't want to be sitting on your phone doom scrolling all the day. Get out and meet people. Come and see the judging. It's really, really good fun.
Absolutely. There's just something that you walk away with. And it's not just inspiration, that camaraderie that's there and that encouragement that you get from your peers, not just, the judges and the educators, and that it's just being in the same, like you said, the same environment with people who are just as excited as you are. There's something about that, if you could bottle it up and sell it, you'd be a millionaire.
There it is. Well, they're trying to. You can see it in Hammersmith this coming January, middle of the month. Talk to us finally just about KBO. Where can people find you online, and where can they learn more from your unique brand of business mentoring, Kelly?
kellybrownonline.com. Very, very easy to remember. But yeah, I'm live every Monday night, 8 p.m. Every Monday, and we have different classes every week, or Q&As, whatever it is. But I am live every week, and we have conversations, and yeah, it's become a really incredible community. And it's amazing to watch people go from, just starting out to, really, hitting home runs within their business and achieving amazing goals.
Incredible stuff. Kelly, one final question before you go. If you could choose one photographer anywhere in the world that's gettable, they have to be gettable, that you would invite to come on and share their 3 favorite images with the world, which photographer would you like to see and hear from?
Oh, you're really throwing me under.
I've put you on the spot and I've thrown you under the bus here because it's the
There's
one
so
part.
many.
The one part
Gosh,
of this chat I didn't prep you for, and I
no,
should have prepped you for.
yeah, because, you know,
This is bad hosting.
so many. Tony Hewitt.
Tony Hewitt, you just made the list. I'm going to be badgering him with voice messages now. Thank you to everyone who's watched. We've had an enormous number of you watching us live tonight. I'm sure you've got so many questions. Go to KBO Online, right? She's going to be able to answer your questions, Kelly, on there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. So leave nice comments below after the live stream has ended. Say nice things, like and subscribe, donate to the link below. If you have a couple of quid, just donate it to the link below so that we can raise some much needed funds for leukemia care. Kelly Brown, thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you so much for sharing your 3 favorite photos. And thank you so much for the education tonight. I thoroughly appreciate it. Have a wonderful week.
Oh, thank you, James. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love what you do.
Cheers. See you later.
Bye.